I'm Mona Kramer, and I'm here to talk about Don Short. And he became very near and dear to our family. We lived on the Short Ranch, and my dad worked for Don. And Don and Edie and their kids became like our family. In fact, my sister, just a few years ago, when she was old enough to know better, she said, "I thought we were always relatives." And today with me, I have Don's youngest daughter, Susie, and then Rex Cook are going to also say a few words about Don. But it's such a privilege for me to be able to nominate him and for the induction. He was nominated by Rex back in the early 2000s, and somehow or another, I think Sitting Bull got in. So that's kind of the story there. And now he's up against Doc Hubbard, which is another very worthy candidate also. So we would like to see Don in, and it's just something that we feel. He's a gentle, caring person. The year that he got into politics, kind of by accident, I guess, he was elected to the legislature, and at that time, he was only the second of about 3 generations of an actual farmer or rancher to serve in the legislature. So he spoke for the people, for the rural people. He went to Washington, and he actually cared about what the people from his district wanted him to cover and wanted him to, he voted the way they wanted him to. And when he retired, or he was not elected again, they had a retirement party for him. And in the book, if you get a chance, I'd like for you to look at the book. Susie has provided me with all kinds of artifacts that their family has had, and news articles, pictures, just a whole bunch of telegrams of well wishes from his people that he worked with, that he served in Congress with. There's a telegram from Dwight Eisenhower. There's a telegram signed from Dick Nixon, Barry Goldwater. There were almost from every state. It was amazing to see the artifacts of people that congratulated him on his service, and what an honor it was to serve with him. And he came back to North Dakota and continued in the ranching business. Always a friend to the neighbor. He always cared about the people around him, people in the community. Susie told me a story that when we lived on the ranch, we were little, and he went to beach, and Dr. Bush saw him in town and said, "Are you going back out to the ranch?" "Well, yeah." "Well, here's the polio vaccine. You got to make sure those little girls get vaccinated." And he said, "I can't give those little girls shots." "Well, sure you can," Dr. Bush told him. You've given cattle shots." "Well, yeah, but I can't give those little girls shots." And he did. He came, brought the vaccine, and gave us our polio shots. But he was just one of a kind, and it would be so an honor to see him inducted into the Cowboy Hall of Fame and to be appreciated by the people of North Dakota, because he cared about North Dakota.
Don Short was another neighbor. He was probably only about 10 or 12 miles from us. And of course, I knew of him all the time. His father was kind of the opposite of Don. His father was always in some venture Either he bought a lot of cattle out of Minnesota, or at one time he raised a lot of horses. I think he imported a stallion from Belgium. He hired some great cowboys when he had some big ranches, and then things would go bad and he'd go broke. And Don Short came along, and he went to college, became educated, had jobs all during the time in the 1930s. All that Con Short had was a section, maybe a half section of land that he owned. And Don started to put that ranch back together again. And he was a hard worker. He eventually had 2 ranches, ran about 700 head of cows, farmed, put up silage, weaned his calves, fed them till they were yearlings. And he did that as well as while he was serving on various boards and stockman boards. He also helped many young people, and I don't know how many he helped, but he helped me several times when I really needed help personally. I was a young man teaching school and trying to put together some land and a ranch. And of course, I suppose most of you have done the same thing. And every dollar seems like it counts. You never know what. I'd run yearlings in the summertime and hope the price stayed up. And one time I was in Beach with a friend of mine, Neil Hamilton, and we'd gathered our yearlings all up. And I went to Beach to get a trucker to haul them to the sale. And Don Short had retired at that time. And he came in the restaurant, and he and Bob Jones, another great fellow out there, and wanted to know what we were doing. And I told him we're trying to find a trucker to haul cattle to the sale. And he turned to Bob Jones and he said, "We're not doing anything, are we?" "No, well, we'll haul them for you." So they went to their ranches and got their trucks, came out the next morning and hauled my cattle to the sale, 300 head of yearlings. And I got done, and I thought, well, that was really good of him. So I went to Don and said, "What owe you? You don't owe me anything." He said, "We weren't doing anything anyway." And I had a couple other experiences like that where there was a section of land came up for sale, and Bob Jones told Don, it was right next to the permit that Don had, and he said, "Why don't you buy this section of land from me? It's kind of out of my way." And Don said, "Well, I'd sure like to have it," but he said it really fit with Rex Cook's land, and he said, "Why don't you ask him first? If he doesn't take it, I'll buy it." So Bob Jones called me, and I bought the land, but there aren't many guys who would have done those things. And I didn't know him that well. We were quite an age difference. But we bordered them on the cattle. They were always good about cattle whenever something came up. If I had a yearling got into theirs, they always told me about it or brought him back, and we did the same thing. So I think he deserves to be a great Westerner. He was a great congressman and a hard worker, and he did some great things. Thank you.
Wow, it's really kind of scary to follow them and to follow everybody that has spoken about all these really interesting people who deserve to be in the Cowboy Hall of Fame. And of course, I think my dad does. He was a great dad. Why shouldn't he be in the Cowboy Hall of Fame? You know, that's how you feel. I'm so grateful for my heritage of growing up on a ranch. I mean, anybody who grows up on a ranch is lucky. And my siblings, who were all considerably older than I was the tag-along, we always said we were the luckiest kids in the world. My brother would say, I had a horse, I had a dog, I had a gun, and I had a little tractor to cultivate corn. He said, you don't get any luckier than that. So, and I'm sure that's how we all feel from the ranching communities. I wasn't feeling all that lucky when my dad was elected to Congress. And we had to move out east, and I had to go to a school that was bigger than the size of Beach. And, you know, Mom enjoyed it. Dad felt honored to have been asked to go there, and he worked very hard to be a good congressman, but his heart was always at the ranch, always in North Dakota. And I have to, I don't want to say correct, what Rex said about my dad being educated. He would go to school in Minnesota at the university for the first quarter in the fall, or maybe it was the second quarter, and then he never went back again. Then the next year he'd do a quarter. So he never really graduated from college, but he did educate himself in a lot of different ways, and he was well spoken. And one thing I have to say to all the ladies here who are a part of the ranching industry, and the men have got to recognize the role the ladies play. And I often wonder, or I often think that our mom was really a part of Dad's support system, that he grew into the man that he was and all that he did accomplish. She was a teacher in Medora, first year teaching. The banker in Medora took these teachers out to see the cattle drive come in that fall. And that was the first time she met my dad. Well, then the second time was at a New Year's Eve dance, the following New Year's Eve. And he asked her to dance several times, and then he asked her, he said, you know, it would not inconvenience me at all to take you home after the dance. She said, well, I won't inconvenience you at all. I'll go home with who I came with. However, 6 weeks later, they ran off to Weibo and got married. So I think he kind of swept her off her feet. And I have to say this, she was engaged to another man at the time. A college fellow that she had met, and she always said, you know, he was a very nice man, and I do feel sorry about what I did to him. But she said, I don't have any regrets. And I did ask her one time, because she was not a ranch person. She had never lived in the country. She grew up mostly in Bowman, but she did graduate from high school in Bismarck. And I said to her, Mom, and they were married in 31. I said, why did you stay? I said, you were so far from town and life was hard, blah, blah, blah. I said, why did you stay? And she says, well, there were a couple of good reasons. She says, number one, I usually didn't have a way to town. Number two, I really loved your dad. So it all turned out great for them. And ranching definitely, you know, was his calling. It was his first love. He was honored to serve in Congress. He made a lot of very good friends. Bob Dole was in and out of the office. I called him Bob. Most of his colleagues that he was good friends with, they might have been on the ag committee, but like they were ag people from Minnesota, dairy farmers, ranchers. There was a fellow, Ben Rifle from South Dakota, and you know, I don't know what he did, but they were very good friends. A friend from Maine who was a potato farmer. They all had like backgrounds. Everybody else was a lawyer. So they didn't have a lot of common ground with them. I'm sorry if I've offended. I don't mean to offend anybody. Is there anybody a lawyer here? I'm really sorry, but that's how it was. I just have to thank you for considering him. I think he is deserving. I think for many reasons. Read Mona's book that she's put together. She has worked hours on it, I can tell, and it has been so much fun for us to connect. I mean, not that we haven't been connected, but I think I was maybe 9 when they moved out to the ranch. Well, out to our area, working at another little ranch, and then I have no idea what happened as to why they came and worked for my dad. And they lived in a little homestead shack. Jim and Marlon with these 3 little bitty girls. Mona was about 2. And, and it had no electricity, no running water. It was 2 rooms. They knew it was going to be short-lived because my folks were building a house, a new house. I mean, we had a log house that we'd always lived in. They were putting up a new house, so when we moved into that house, Jim and Marlon and the girls would move into our log house. And I just think, I mean, like Mona said, it was like we were one big family. I mean, growing up, our life out there was fun. It was a lot of work, but it was fun, and I think it says a lot about the relationship my dad had with Mona's dad, because he gave Jim a saddle that he had had special made at some point. That's all I know about it. But I think, you know, when a cowboy gives away a saddle to somebody, that means he cares a lot. And
It was a Hamley saddle.
there you go. And every Sunday night when Jim would be in town, he would call our house out in Maryland. And oh, when I would answer the phone and hear Jim's voice, I was so excited. So anyway, there's a lot of stories I could tell, but I'm afraid he's going to ring that bell. Oh, can I do have to read one more thing, and this was written by my grandmother, Whittemore, my mom's mom, who lived with our family for 20 years and did a lot with helping these 4 kids. Anyway, this is what, I just found it on a little slip of paper when I was digging through stuff for Mona. Don, I enjoy hearing you talk. You are so fair, so just. You never take the hide off a man and leave him bare. I like, as if his hide won't cover his faults, you try to stretch it until it does. Blessings on thee for it. You have come far, and she has that in quotes, but you will go farther. Your star has yet to set. You have a wonderful wife to walk with you. I'm very proud and happy about you and appreciate so much being a member of the Short family. The children and grands, precious too. Love and admiration, meme. That was his mother-in-law. Thank you.
Thank you.
You bet.